What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Retro Review. I am the Bearded Geek. Joining me, as always, is Mikey the Freak.
What's up, folks?
And Bebo cannot join us because the poor fella's a little sick. Oh, wah, wah.
Well, send them your well wishes, guys.
Yeah,
Let,
wish
let,
him
it- let
well,
them
wish him
know.
well.
Let them know we care.
Yeah, or fake it for all, fake caring.
Take care.
Today we will be reviewing the 1985 movie Clue. This movie is based on the Milton Bradley board game. It has a cast of characters, man. It has Christopher Lloyd, Tim Curry, Martin Mull. It has it has a bunch of bunch of characters.
Yeah, Mike McKean,
Mm-hmm.
Colleen Camp, there's Madeline Kahn. There's several A-listers from the '80s.
Yes. This was a big movie. It had a bunch of stars in it. This movie starts off with Wadsworth, played by Tim Curry, entering a big mansion. You know, and as he's entering, there's two growling dogs, uh, by the front door, and he gives them like a bone, and he enters, but he sniffs around. He stepped in dog poo. Poor thing. So he goes in, makes sure everything's set up. There's a cook and a maid in the house. They are the only ones in the house at this time. Then people start arriving. The first to arrive is Colonel Mustard. Uh, Wadsworth takes his coat and everything, and as he takes his coat, Colonel Mustard looks around and he's like, smells, because Wadsworth stepped in the poo, so now he smells it. It's kind of like a running joke for like the first 15 minutes of the movie of the poo smell. Anyway, everybody finally starts to arrive. You have Colonel Mustard, Miss Scarlet, Miss White, Miss Peacock, Mr. Green, and Professor Plum. Yes, they all end up coming together. They have dinner, drinks, and then they all move to the conservatory. While they're in the conservatory, they're trying to figure out why they're there. And it's Wadsworth opens up a letter, and he is to tell them why everybody's there. They've all been blackmailed. One of them tries to deny it, and some of them don't. But they're all being blackmailed by somebody named Mr. Body. By about this time, Mr. Body finally arrives. And he comes, sits down, and he openly admits, I'm the one blackmailing you. And but he don't know why he is there or why anybody else is there. Wadsworth was the one who called everybody to come get there to expose Mr. Body for blackmailing. Wadsworth has the key to the mansion. They are locked in. They can't get out. It's a rainy, stormy night. So nobody can get out. So Mr. Body says, you know what? If somebody kills Wadsworth, they can be free. They can not be free of their, being blackmailed, but they could leave. And so Mr. Body turns out the lights. There's a gunshot. Something breaks, and the lights get turned back on, and Mr. Body's dead.
Well, the key thing you want to mention as well, which is a cool part of the board game itself, is when Mr. Body gives everybody each a present,
That's
which
correct.
is a deadly weapon, and then you start to see the board game unfold, where you have Miss White had a rope, and then Plum had the revolver. You have the wrench, which was Colonel Mustard, the lead pipe, Mr. Green. So it all starts to unfold like Candlestick with Miss Scarlet.
Yeah.
So everything starts to unfold. You're like, oh shoot, now you're gonna figure out it was Miss White with the rope in the study, which is how you win the game. So I thought that was kind of a cool turning point in the movie, to where you're like, yeah, this is what's familiar about the board game, and you're starting to relive the game playing days.
Right. You see the game starting to come to life at this point.
Yeah.
So Mr. Body's dead, or so we thought.
So we think.
Yeah, so we think. So they're like, they don't know what happened, you know. Then all of a sudden there's a scream. Yvette, who was recording the whole thing from the billiard room, starts screaming. So they go in there and get her. And then they're like, who else is in the house? And they're like, the cook. So they all run to the kitchen and they find the cook dead. So they're like, oh, well, bring her back. So when they come back, Mr. Body's gone. And they're like, oh, well, what the hell happened to Mr. Body?
So I thought he was dead. He was dead. Right. He was.
So I think Miss Peacock ends up saying she has to use the bathroom. So she goes to the lavatory and she opens the door and Mr. Body falls on her. And Mr. Body falls on her. He falls on the floor. Tim Curry, Wadsworth, walks in the bathroom like he must not have been dead or else he couldn't have been here. And he starts yelling, and then all of a sudden the candlestick
falls. Why are you
falls.
shouting?
I'm not shouting.
I'm not shouting. Okay, I'm shouting. I'm shouting.
And then the candlestick falls that was on the door ledge, and it hits him in the head. Yeah. So they take both bodies and they put them on in the conservatory.
Lounge.
The lounge. They put them in the lounge.
They're in the lounge. Yeah.
Yeah. They put them in the lounge, and they're like, all right, well, is there anybody else in the house? So they go searching the house. They split up in twos. You know, you got two of them searching the basement, two of them searching ground floor, two of them searching second floor, two in the basement. They end up.
It's funny too. I mean, cut you off, but they use the giant matchsticks. You know, the ones that are they're give or take 8 to 10 inches long, and that Wadsworth cuts them up. And it's funny the faces when they draw the sticks and they're trying to match them up with each people and person to person. And Scarlett goes to Mustard and they match it up, and she's just like, oh my God.
Right.
It's like, oh my God, I didn't want to be with him. Like she has really a choice, right? Mm-hmm. And Professor Plum at this point, where his MO is a womanizer, I guess you could say. Mm-hmm. So him being a womanizer, and you see that when he picks up Scarlett at the beginning of the movie. The only reason why he stops is she's bent over because her car is broken down. So she goes up, he gets Peacock, and he's like, "It's you and me, honey bunch," and she's just like, "Oh, great." Right. Like, so they already have problems with each other, and now they're teamed up with people they could care less about. Right. So that's what makes it interesting how everybody got paired up.
Because each one of them thinks the other is the murderer. So why?
Yeah.
Yes, that is another thing. Nobody knows who the killer is yet. So they're going through, and then all of a sudden the doorbell rings. It's a stranded motorist. Mm-hmm. The stranded motorist is comes in. They put him in the he has to use the phone, so they put him in the library. Or was it? Yeah, the library, right?
I believe so, yeah.
Yeah, they put him in the library.
There's so many different rooms.
Yeah.
There was a room that was occupied by everybody.
They put him in a room. I
think it was the study.
It may be the study. It was a room. It's hard to keep track of what rooms.
Watch the movie, y'all figure it out for yourself.
Yeah. Watch the movie, see. Anyway, he's in there, and so they continue to search the house. And all of a sudden, it goes back to the motorist. He's on the phone. He's like, yeah, I'm stranded at this house. It looks like they're having some sort of party. But the weird thing is, one of them is my and he gets hit.
Former boss, yeah.
Yeah, he gets hit on the back of the head because you see a secret passage behind him move. And then he gets hit on the back of the head. You don't see who it is. And he's dead. Now he's dead. Mm-hmm. So they go through, and Martin Mull, who plays Colonel Mustard, and you have Miss Scarlett, they find a secret passage, and they find their way into that room. Mm-hmm. And they're like, and then all of a sudden the passage closes, and they're like, uh-oh, we're trapped in here. Where's he? Why is he on the ground dead? So they start screaming. So they're banging on the door, uh, to they're banging on the door for people to let them out.
Let us out. Let us
Let
in.
us
Let
in.
us
Let us
in.
in. Yeah. So they finally Yvette's like, all right, I know what to do. Before all this happened, they locked up all the weapons in a cabinet. So, but Yvette goes, grabs the gun out of the cabinet, and shoots the door, unlocks the door. And they're like, "Where'd you get the gun?"
Two gunshots.
Yeah.
Two gunshots at
Yes.
the door.
Okay. So you're gonna do that? Okay.
You got to. The first gunshot, she trips and hits the chandelier, and then she shoots it twice at the door.
Yes.
To open the door.
Yes. So the door's open. They come out and they're like, how'd you get the gun? She's like, I got it from the cabinet. Well, the cabinet was locked. Well, she says, I thought it would be too. I thought I'd have to pry it open, but it was already open. So they're like, well, let's take the key to the cabinet and throw it away so nobody can get it. So they go to throw away the key, and then all of a sudden there's a policeman there. Because a policeman saw the stranded motorist car. He runs up to he ends up coming to the house, and I guess he was about to knock on the door at the same time they opened up the door. And as they go to throw the key, the cop is there, and they're like, hey, I saw the stranded motorist, blah, blah, blah. So they're like, he's like, can I call this in? They're like, yes, you can use the phone.
In the stuff, no.
Yeah,
in the lounge, no.
No. I think there's one here. So they put him in another room. They take him and put
lock him in too.
Yeah, they lock him in too. And they end up throwing away the key at this point, I believe. And he gets a phone call from J. Edgar Hoover. The phone rings and it's J. Edgar Hoover on the line. And he's like, can y'all... Yeah. He's like, let me out of here. You have no right to lock me up, blah, blah, blah. I'm going to charge you with this, and murder.
And murder.
And they opened the door to like, murder? Why would you say that? He said, I only said that just so you'd open the door. Yeah. And they're like, oh, okay. He says, tell me something. Why you have J. Edgar Hoover calling your phone? So he goes, yeah, they go and deal with J. Wadsworth takes the phone.
Answers the phone, yep.
Yeah, Wadsworth takes the phone. And so when he's done, the cop still needs to use the phone. So they lock him in there again. At this point,
they go back and search the house.
Yep.
They go back because at this point they haven't finished searching the house. So they have 3 people dead at this point. Yep. They're still completely confused on what's going on.
Who the murderer is, yeah.
Yep. So they head back out in pairs, go back to their respective floors, and the lights go out. You see someone turn the lights out, and then all of a sudden,
one of those big light switch
that controls a mansion, one giant lever that you always
like a freaking Frankenstein switch is what it was.
Exactly. Yeah. So when that goes out, then you see someone someone goes and strangles Yvette at this point.
Yeah, strangles Yvette. Yeah. Then somebody, lead pipe hits the cop, and then the doorbell rings while the power's out. It's a singing telegram person. They get shot. So Wadsworth ends up running down. He can't figure out where he's going, and he turns the power back on.
Another door. That's the funny part too. I gotta mention one of the funniest. I'd say the funniest, but one of the comedic scenes too is you hear Mrs. White is screaming. So Wadsworth is trying to find Mrs. White. Opens the door handle, goes through, and they're like, he grabs another hand. And he goes, "What? Another door?" And he turns it on, and it's the shower.
Yeah.
So that.
He walks into the shower. Yeah,
he walks into the shower. So it's like, oh no, it's not. And so he comes down, and he's soaking wet.
turns the lights on.
To turn the lights on, and then
by this point, they open up the door to see the cop dead, and they're like, whatever.
Nonchalant.
Yeah,
Another body.
Yvette's dead. Okay.
I thought I heard a gunshot.
Open door. Motorist. Okay. She's dead.
Like, yeah, so the singing telegram girl, they're like, yeah, I thought I heard a gunshot. Oh, the front door slammed. The killer might have got away. So they run out to the front door, they open it, another body.
Yeah, okay. So by this time,
point, it's normal.
Yeah.
It's becoming a normal night.
So by this time, Wadsworth has deduced who the killer is. So there's a...
So he thinks.
Yeah. Well, no, he has deduced who Wadsworth has, he knows who the killer is. So he goes through this whole thing, taking them from room to room. He reenacts everything in a comedic way. It has that type music. Behind it. So, and it ends up being Miss Scarlet. He's like,
but running
the gunshot. Yes.
You've got to get the running gag in there as well, that every time that they're trying to explain something and he goes, to make the long story short, too late.
Too late, yeah.
Too late. That started early, and it's funny because to this day, when I hear someone say, well, to make the long story short, I always say too late.
Too late.
Too late. And they have no clue what I'm talking about.
But anyway, he deduces that whoever has the gun, because they could not find the gun who killed the singing telegram lady, is the killer. So everybody empty your pockets, empty your purses, and it's Miss Scarlet. She brings out the gun. He's like, great job. You did, great job. I'm going to leave now. And Wadsworth is like, no, the jig is up, ma'am. He goes, there's no more bullets in that gun. And she's like, yes, there is. No, there's not. There was 2 shot, 2 plus 2. What was it? 2 shots?
1 plus 1 plus 2 plus 1.
Oh, yeah.
One at Mr. Body, one at the chandelier, 2 at the door, and one at the singing telegram girl.
Yep.
So if that's the case, it'd be 1 plus 1 plus 2 plus 1. No, that's just 1 plus 2 plus 1. Shut up.
Yeah, it's a funny gag.
Like, shut up.
It's a funny gag. It's a funny gag. Anyway, by this time, George Carlin knocks on the door, but he's like, he's like a god person, like a religious person trying to give a pamphlet to him. I can't remember. The kingdom of God will save you, or something like that.
The kingdom of heaven. Yeah.
Yeah, the kingdom of heaven.
Kingdom of heaven awaits.
Yes, will save you. And they, they're like, whatever, go away. So Miss Scarlet's like, I'm about to leave here. We just stack the bodies and y'all clean it up, and I'm going to leave, and I'm going to blackmail each and every one of you now. So she goes to leave, and the George Carlin, the guy who was out there, was actually a police officer.
It wasn't George Carlin.
That's not George Carlin?
No. I'm finding it real quick. He was the police chief. He was Lassard's brother in Police Academy.
Yeah.
The very first Police Academy.
It's funny because you're right. It's not George Carlin, but before I rewatched this movie, the whole time I thought it was George Carlin until it got to that scene. And now it's just sticking in my head that it was George Carlin. It's not George Carlin. Anyway. Mikey, you got it, Mike?
I'll find it in a second.
Okay, but anyway, he ends up being a cop. He arrests Miss Scarlet and says, that's how it happened. Well, that's how it could have happened. But how about this?
Oh, I've got it. I'm sorry. I found it. It was Howard Hessman, which was Pete Lassard.
Okay.
Yeah, Howard Hessman was that.
Yeah, you're right. I'm sorry, everybody. It was not George Carlin. I don't know why in my head.
He would have made a good cop because there was a lot of comedic performers, and he was big in the '80s.
Yeah,
he would have probably made a pretty good officer at that point, or detective. Yeah,
right.
That would have been a good role for him.
Anyways, if you know Clue, there's multiple ways that this could happen. if you know Clue, the board game, you know that there's multiple ways that you can figure out who the killer is, just like this movie, because a little thing pops up says that's how it could have happened, but how about this? And it starts over and this time it's Mrs. Peacock, and Mrs. Peacock comes in, and she's like, okay, I'm the killer. Everybody empty your pockets, and she has the gun. And she's like, everybody stack the bodies out. I'm going to leave. And they all start singing for She's a Jolly Good Fellow because she's going to let them live, but she's going to be the first one to leave before the cops get there. And she goes all the way out to her car, and the cop who had the flyer says, "Oh, Miss Peacock."
How do you know my name?
Yep. And then lights pop, and cops
Take
come
away,
from
boy.
everywhere. Yeah. And Wadsworth, he's like, "Oh, I'm an FBI agent." So we've been trying to get her for a while now. And he's holding the gun, and they're like, "How'd you know that there wasn't any bullets in that gun?" He's like, "Easy. There are no bullets in this gun. 2 plus 2, 1 plus 1 plus 2,
2 plus 1.
And he shoots the gun, and the freaking chandelier falls. It goes off.
Right behind, and that's kind of a bit of foreshadowing from the beginning of the movie, because if you notice when Martin Mull or Colonel Mustard walks in, he looks up and notices the chandelier. So you get a shot. It's something to look back in when you watch the movie. You get a shot down looking at the chandelier, and then you see Colonel Mustard kind of looking up at it. And then, of course, at the end, towards the end of the movie, when the chandelier falls and almost kills him, it's kind of a foreshadowing that they use. So I thought that was pretty funny.
So we've had Miss Scarlet, then we've had Miss Peacock, and then they go, but this is how it really happened. So Wadsworth goes through everything again, and he's like, he goes, Colonel Mustard killed this person. Basically, there's 6 bodies, so every one of them killed somebody. That's how it happened. And they're like, and Wadsworth is like, and I thank you for that, because those were my informants. Everybody here that is dead, I invited them. They work for me. I'm actually Mr. Body. So, yeah, so a little twist. So he's like, I'm going to still blackmail you, but I don't have to pay my informants now. You're just going to work for me. So, but by this time, Mr. Green says, "Are you sure about that?" And he pulls out a gun and shoots Wadsworth, or Mr. Body, and he falls down. Yeah, and he falls dead. Wadsworth is like, "Good shot, really good shot," and he dies. And he yells, "Chief, I got him! Chief, I got him!" And the cops come in and they start arresting all, Miss Scarlet. They arrest them all except for Mr. Green, because he was the only person who didn't kill somebody.
And I told you I didn't do it.
He goes, "Who did it?" He says, "All of them. But if you want to know who shot Mr. Body, I did it. In the hall with the revolver." He goes, "Now I'm going to go home and sleep with my wife." And the movie ends. Because previously he stated that he was homosexual. So,
yes.
And that was the blackmail, is he was homosexual, but he was a plant. It's not really him.
Yeah. And so, that was kind of the cool ending, because they actually had Mr. Green revolver in the hall.
Right.
So that's basically whoever won the game. That's how you win the game in Clue.
So there has been no remakes of Clue. This was an original. Great cast, great story. It keeps you on the edge of your seat. If you like a murder mystery and comedy, you'll love this freaking movie. I thoroughly enjoyed it. This movie was my pick, so I'll go first on my rating. So I'm going to give this movie an 8.5. I would highly recommend this movie. Does it hold up? There's no big graphics or anything in it, so other than, clarity as far as, HD and stuff like that, yeah, it holds up. It's a good movie. Well written, well acted. It's a little overacted in some parts, but that's what comedies are.
Yeah.
Great movie. It'll keep you on the edge of your seat. You'll be laughing at the end of this movie. So 8.5 for me. How about you, Mikey?
Yeah, I kind of have to agree too. I'm in the an 8, just because there's a lot of, you want to go back and watch this movie after you watch it the first time and they explain the 3 endings, and then they're like, well, this is the last ending of what happened. He goes into detail with like, well, who wasn't with us in the billiard room? It was,
Mhm.
oh, it was so and so. So you go back and you try to look and see if that's right, because they sneak through the secret passages throughout the movie.
Right.
And when they show up and there's a dead body, you're starting to look, they're like, oh shit, Mr. Peacock's not with them, or Scarlett's not with them.
Mhm.
So you start to see the people that are not in those rooms. So it's kind of cool to go back and watch and kind of pick that kind of stuff out. The foreshadowing and all that is fun. Yeah, an 8 for me, just because the comedic performance with these characters, or these actors, were in their primes in the 80s.
Yeah.
So they were, to me, they were A-listers back then. Comedic value. I love Tim Curry and almost everything he did. He was just coming off of Rocky Horror Picture Show in the late 70s to do this movie in the 80s. He did It as Pennywise. So he was on a hiatus the last few years before this movie showed up. It was a box office bomb. It did not do well at the box office, but it holds value. Yeah, you're right. There's no CGI. There's no green screen.
Mm-mm.
It's just actors and comedic actors being actors,
Right.
and having fun with this role. One of the funny things is I like Madeline Kahn because I'm a huge Mel Brooks fan, and Madeline Kahn to me stole the show, because when they gave her this role, they increased her role as Mrs. White. And the
Flames.
flame, when
The
she
flames.
explains why that woman had a sexual affair with her husband, was classic. That it was ad-libbed, one, with the flames, how hot on her face that part was ad-libbed. And then when she goes into her husband's, that one was a magician, and he vanished, and he's like, well, he never reappeared. He wasn't a very good illusionist.
Yeah, he wasn't a very good magician.
So there's a lot of comedic performances throughout, and everybody has a specific role in a part of this movie that kind of gave them that funny part. Um, Another good one was Mr. Green, when he sits on the table when they're all talking, and
Yeah.
it gets quiet, and then the table collapses from under him.
Yeah.
One of those slapstick fall down type comedy, but everybody had something,
Right.
which I thought was fun. So yeah, to me, an 8 is perfect for this movie. Something you don't have to watch or you don't have to play or understand the board game to watch this movie, just simply because it's a movie. You might want to play the game after you watch the movie.
And I feel myself wanting to do that. I feel myself wanting to do that after
I do want to play. And I don't know. I don't think I have it up there, so we might have to go get one and play.
I have to. I know we're doing this a little backwards, but I do have a couple interesting facts. This is usually Bebo's specialty. Carrie Fisher was actually the original Miss Scarlet for this movie. Star Wars fame, Carrie Fisher. That's kind of interesting.
And why didn't she get the role?
Days before she was supposed to show up for rehearsal, she entered rehab.
Rehab, there it is. She was a drunk. Yeah, she went into rehab. Star Wars fame got too much for her after Return of the Jedi.
Right.
And yep. Unfortunately,
it happens.
She became
Sometimes it bees that way.
Sometimes it happens.
Tim Curry was actually the third choice for Wadsworth the butler.
Hmm.
Let's see. They wanted Leonard Rosher and let's see,
Rowan Atkinson.
Rowan Atkinson. Oh, that's right. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, Rowan Atkinson would have been a very good watchword because I think they were really looking for that British stereotypical butler, that posh type old English type look. And I mean, I can't see Tim Curry as anything else other than the butler at this point. But Rowan Atkinson playing Mr. Bean and also being the Black Adder, he would have done a fabulous job too.
Yeah,
but they stuck with Curry because he was friends with the director. So makes sense.
It does. It does. It would have probably been more slapstick if Rowan Atkinson was. Yeah.
Exactly.
The last little tidbit I have kind of brings this all together for us because we are going to start a Psych review show, and this movie actually got its own Psych episode. An episode of Psych was based on this movie for its 100th episode. So that's a little tie-in for what we'll be doing in the future.
I like that. That was cool.
All right. I believe that does it for this episode of Back to the Retro Review. For Bebo, since he's not here, and Mikey the Freak, I am the Bearded Geek saying keep it retro, everybody.
See you, folks.